Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing a delicious fried recipe with you guys. We are going to be making red lentil fritters. Now these fritters are very similar to the Waday that I posted on my channel a while ago, which is the South Indian version of bara. It basically is just different in the aspect that it has red lentils on the inside and it has a bunch of veggies in it as well. So this is the recipe that I'm sharing with you guys today, what I came up with. And the ingredients that I'm using came from Veggie import, so I want to thank Andrew for sending me these wonderful ingredients. And as usual, you can go ahead and buy these ingredients at buyeasy.com. And if you want to save a few bucks, go ahead and input my code MGC15 in the box when you go and check out. So this way you can save 15% on your order. Not only does it help support my channel a little bit, but it also saves you a few bucks on these awesome products. So let's go over the rest of the ingredients. So before we get into making the red lentil fritters, I just wanted to go over the different type of lentils that I'm going to be using in this recipe. So on the top, I have my red lentils, of course, that's the main star of the show. Then on the left, I have my yellow split peas, also known as dhal. And then on the right, I have my urad dhal, also known as dhal. Now this urad dhal is the white one, it's the one without the skin. But if you're using the one with the skin, it's going to be more of a blackish color, which is totally fine too. Now you can go ahead and mix and mingle any types of lentils that you want or dried peas. I've used chana in this before, or chickpeas, and they work well as well. To begin making these fritters, what you're going to need to do is soak all of these lentils or these dried peas overnight. The reason you want to do this is so this way they can soften up a bit. So this way when you go to blend them, they will be soft enough for the blender to blend and they will have the right texture. Now if you did not have overnight, you can go ahead and soak these for at least an hour to two in very, very warm or hot water, and that will totally do the same thing that it does overnight in regular lukewarm water. So whatever time you have, just make it work for you. I had the time overnight, so I soaked them overnight with some lukewarm water, but if you only have an hour or two, go ahead and soak it in some really warm water and they will be ready to go. So all of my dried peas have been soaking overnight, and as you can see, they've basically doubled in size in the bowl. That's just because that all of those peas really absorbed all of the water well. And what I'm going to do at this point is go ahead and drain off all of this water and then rinse them really well. The reason you want to rinse them is so this way you can get any of that excess starch off of the top. So here are the ingredients that I'm going to be using to make the red split peas fritters. What I have here is all of the soaked peas that I went ahead and I washed really well. You want to make sure to wash it until that water turns clear and all of the impurities are gone. I also have some chopped spinach. This was frozen spinach that I went ahead and I just chopped up a little more, and that's what I'm going to use in the recipe today. You could feel free to use baby spinach, you could use kale, you could use bok choy spinach, which is what I'm using. I'm using the top of the heads of the bok choy. But I've made it with baby spinach or kale and it works out perfectly as well. I'm also going to be using some sliced onions. You want to slice them very thin. Some shredded carrots. I have a little bit of all-purpose flour as well as some ground dhal. This is the dried split peas powder, and those two are going to help me bind this together just in case this mixture is a little too wet. We might or might not eat it, but I'll tell you guys as the video goes on. As far as the flavoring agents, we have some wiri peppers, some whole garlic cloves, some chopped scallions, and all of these are going to be blended up with the peas mixture. And as far as the spices, I have some roasted ground geera. I have a little bit of coriander powder. I also have some grind dye, or also known as turmeric. And I have a little bit of baking powder. The baking powder is optional. If you like a denser and more crispy fritter, then feel free to omit it. But I like for the fritters to have just a little bit of puff to them because I don't like when they're too dense. And we're also going to need a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. So I'm going to go ahead and first of all take this whole peas mixture and I'm going to go ahead and grind it up in my food processor. I want to grind it until it is basically a fine paste. You want little chunks throughout, but you want it fine for the most part. I'm not going to use much water at all to grind these. You want to use as minimal water as possible. I'm hoping to just use about a quarter cup of water to grind these peas in total, but I will let you know when I'm finished grinding them how much I used. Alright guys, so here are all of the peas that I went ahead and ground really well in my food processor. Now along with all of these peas, I ground the garlic, the hot pepper, as well as the scallions with them. And when I was grinding them in my food processor, I only used about a quarter cup in total, just like how I mentioned before, to grind all of these peas. The reason being again is because you don't want this mixture to be too soft, or else you're going to have to keep on adding more flour. And what the flour does is it makes it less crispy and it makes it more dense. So I'm going to go ahead and mix all of these ingredients up, so this way the scallions, the garlic, and the hot pepper can mix up really well with all of those peas, and then we'll move on to putting in the other ingredients. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and season up our batter and get the rest of those ingredients in. So into the batter at first, we are going in with some salt, and of course salt is to taste. And I'm also going in with some black pepper. Again, the black pepper is to taste. I don't add a specified amount. And then I'm going in with all of my baking powder, which is going to give it just a slight puff and not make it too dense. I'm also going in with my turmeric powder. And for the turmeric, you can add as little or as much as you want, depending on how yellow you like your fritters. I'm going in with my coriander powder and my ground geera, also known as cumin powder. And what I'm doing here is I'm just mixing it up really well. You can mix it with a spoon, of course, but you know I like to use my hands in the kitchen. So I'm going to mix it up until all of those spices are evenly incorporated. So once you've gone ahead and mixed up all of those spices within the split pea mixture, it is time to go ahead and add in the rest of the veggies. Now what I'm doing here is adding in my thinly sliced onions, and what you want to do as you add them in is crumble them in between your fingers, just so this way they break up really well. And you want to keep mixing them in so this way they're evenly distributed and there's not really huge big chunks of onions throughout the mixture. And at this point, I'm also going in with my shredded carrots, and I'm also going in with my bok choy that I chopped up really well. Again, you could use any type of spinach that you want. I've used kale in this recipe before and it holds up really well, so I recommend that or any other type of spinach of your choice. Now once you've gone ahead and mixed in all of those vegetables really well and they've gotten evenly distributed throughout the mixture, what you're going to go ahead and do is add in your split peas powder. Now in the beginning of the video, I did mention that the split peas powder as well as the flour were optional. You might not need them just because it depends on how wet your split pea mixture is after it comes out of the blender. Now for this recipe, being that mine were a little wet still, I went ahead and I added in the split peas powder as well as the flour, but it was a very little amount. For all of this fritter mixture that I made, I only added in about a tablespoon or two of flour and the split pea powder as well. So I want to go ahead and mix that in really well. And what you're looking for is a very thick batter, one that you can hold easily in your hand. And now we're going to go ahead and start the frying process. So this is my finished mixture that I mixed all of my ingredients into. And this is something that you can cook right away. There's no yeast in it, so it doesn't need to proof or anything like that. But if you wanted to, you could let it sit for about an hour or two before you cook it. But make sure you leave it in the fridge, because if you leave it out, the onions can make it spoil if it's too hot outside. So basically what I'm doing here is just showing you how to shape them in your hand. You can make these whatever shape you want, but this is just the shape that I like to do it. You want to go ahead and get a little bit of oil on your fingers so this way this batter doesn't stick too much. But basically you're going to take a ball of the dough, about 2 tablespoons full. You're going to flatten it in between your hands, and then you're going to go ahead and put a little hole in the middle. And that hole is going to allow for even cooking from the middle out, and that's exactly what you want. So in the previous clip, I showed you guys how to form these fritters. Now, before I get into this whole frying process, I wanted to let you guys know that my oil was heating up for about 5 minutes to 10 minutes on a medium-high heat. And the reason you want it on that temperature is because these, since they're made from raw peas that have been soaked, they take a little longer to cook since they're not flour-based. So you want to go ahead and make sure that heat is moderated so they cook fully throughout and they don't burn on the inside and stay raw on the inside. So as I add them in, I'm making sure not to overcrowd the pan. And these are going to cook for about 3 to 4 minutes in total. Basically 1 to 2 minutes per side, just depending on your stove, your heat, how big you make them. All those factors are going to go into their cooking process. So I'm going to wait until they get some golden brown edges on the sides, and then we can go ahead and flip. So it's been about 1.5 minutes, and you're going to start to see that the edges get a little bit golden brown. That's your cue to go ahead and start to flip them. And you're going to keep on cooking them until both sides are even in color and nice and golden brown. So these are my fritters after cooking up for about 3 minutes in total. As you guys can see, they have a nice golden brown color all over the edges, and they're very uniform in color. They're not burnt and they're not too light. So basically what you're going to do at this time is drain off the excess oil, put them on a plate lined with a paper towel, and then they are ready to serve. That's all there is to it. Alright guys, I finished frying all of my fritters, and these are just some of them that I plated up along with a side of mango sour or mango chutney. Now, for any type of fried food or fritter that we make in a Guyanese household or any Indo-Caribbean household, you need a good dipping sauce. So my mango sour recipe is already up on my channel. It's my dad's mom's recipe, and my grandmother makes the best mango sour that I've ever had. So I hope you guys go ahead and try it out along with this recipe. These fritters were super crunchy and just so flavorful on the inside from all of the veggies and spices we added in. Just look at how beautiful they look on the inside. Yellow from all of that turmeric, and all of those different veggies are nice and colorful running throughout. I promise this will be a fan favorite if you make it for a little get together because it's such a quick and simple snack food or appetizer to make. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. Go ahead and give it a nice big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed yet, and go ahead and leave your awesome comments down below. I'll see you guys again in my next video.